Abby.
Hi,
How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's good to see you again.
It's good to see you.
And I'm so glad you're able to be here tonight because we are going to have a continuation of our Mother's Day service. So on Mother's Day, as you know,
Yep.
we featured how God calls women to lead. So we had a panel of women, and we were leading a discussion based on some of the really influential women in the Bible and talking through how we could relate to their stories. But as I learned, it's really hard to plan for how much time an open discussion is going to take. So we had another woman that we wanted to feature, but we just ran out of time on Sunday. So Pastor Eric had the idea of why not come together and record this short video. So that's what we're going to do tonight.
Great, I'm excited.
Good. I'm excited to have you here, and I know everyone's really excited to hear more about your perspectives and thoughts. So the woman we're going to focus on tonight is Rahab. And so we call her the decisive prostitute. And if you think back to the Mother's Day service, we had titles like Deborah, the obedient war leader, or Esther, the courageous queen, Mary and Martha, the bold sisters, and then Ruth, the loyal daughter-in-law. So Rahab's title is quite distinct here, right? She does not have the prestige or the respect of Deborah or Esther and was not in that inner circle like Mary and Martha. But we were really kind of drawn to her story because it highlights that no matter what your position, God calls you and you can serve God right where you're at. So let's talk a little bit more about Rahab's story. So she was a prostitute and an innkeeper. And she had a pretty defining moment in her life when she decided to lie, to conceal the two spies that Joshua had sent to scope out the city of Jericho before the attack. And so when the king of Jericho went to her and said, "Hey, bring out these spies," she responded saying, "Well, there were some guys here, but they left, and you can probably go catch them." So she sent them on this goose chase while she was still concealing the spies. And that was a very decisive act that she made at that time, and it had a great risk associated to it. And so as you think about why would you choose to do that, she explains why in the book of Joshua, chapter 2, verses 8 through 10. Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, "I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord, your God, is God in heaven above and on the earth below." So in her location and seeing all the travelers come through, she had heard all these stories of how God was leading these Israelites and making all these conquests. And she was deciding, whose side do I want to be on? And I want to be on that God's side. So in return for her protection of the spies, she was promised safety by the soldiers, and that was granted to her. So if we turn to Joshua 6:25, we hear, "But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men Joshua had sent as spies to Jericho, and she lives among the Israelites to this day." So she lives amongst the believers in God. So her decision and her choice to act at that time was defining for the Israelite army as it set them on a path to victory, but also very defining for her life. So as you think of yourself and choices and decisions you've had to make, what do you reflect back on and think, that was a pretty defining decision that I made?
Yeah, so as I shared on Mother's Day, I recently graduated from UNI, but the decision to go there was pretty decisive and defining in my life. I am a planner through and through, and so I had planned what college was going to look like for me, and that was going to Sioux Falls, majoring in something that I hadn't decided on yet, but going to a small Christian school, somewhere where I felt comfortable, safe, people who thought like me, knew things that I knew, believed in things that I believed in. And so all the way up until about 4 months before I graduated high school, that was my plan. And from my parents' prompting, I decided to visit UNI. And it was kind of a scary option for me. I didn't know anyone going to UNI. It was a new city. At least in Sioux Falls, I had some connections, but Cedar Falls, I didn't have any. And it was big and didn't necessarily share the same beliefs that I did at the core of the university. So I visited and ended up falling in love with the campus and especially some of their programs. And it was just a few months before I graduated that I changed my plan and decided to go to UNI. What I didn't know at the time was all that God had in store for me there. Similar to Rahab, she made a decision, and it was fruitful beyond probably what she imagined it would be. And so that's the same experience I've had, as I've trusted what God was going to do when he took me to Cedar Falls. I met lots of new people, made my closest friends, and really was able to explore kind of what God had for me after college. And so I found my passion kind of in public relations and marketing, but also just in the religion minor that I added, in the classes that I took, in the conversations I had, and the professors that I had. I was able to kind of carve out this spot that I didn't know that I was passionate about. And so in that way, that decision to trust what I felt God was calling me to, that was contrary to what I thought I was going to do, was very defining for me.
I think that's such a great example. So this is graduation season, as you know, and we'll have graduates graduating high school within our congregation as well. And they're probably looking at their future and wondering, am I making the right decision? So it's so cool to hear you, a very recent college graduate, reflecting back, but already appreciating how defining that was for you.
And I won't say it wasn't scary, terrifying at times. And at times was not all rainbows and butterflies, but was definitely worth it looking back.
That's great. That's great. So as we hear more about Rahab, and again, wanting to go back to that theme of God calls all of us right where we're at, even Rahab, a prostitute, we're going to turn to James and see how she was described there. So chapter 2, verse 25. In the same way was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous. So calling Rahab righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction. As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. I think that's so powerful, this idea that without deeds, your faith is dead. So as you think of where you are positioned in life, how do you see God calling you to serve or lead or witness right now?
Yeah, that's an interesting question for me to think about now in the season I'm in. I'm leaving a season where it was very clear. After my first year at UNI, I started leading a small group. I was an intern at the church I was involved in. I was even in leadership positions in school, and so it was very clear kind of where I was leading, where God was calling me for those final 3 years. But now it's kind of a transition season for me as I learn what it means to enter the work world. What does it look like to serve God as I'm working under people in a non-ministry or church environment? Also, what does it mean to lead even as I'm not the one in charge? And then even a season of getting married soon, what does it mean to serve my soon-to-be husband well and how to lead well in that context too? And so I think this is a season for me where God's calling me to sit and listen and learn, spend time in his word and with him to be open and aware of what he's trying to teach me. because I like to think that I know what I'm doing. And so I think this is a time where he's going to use the situations and the relationships that I have to really teach me a lot of what that looks like.
Yeah. And he's strengthening you now, right? He's building you, because we know he does have great plans for you, and he's preparing that path for you.
Yep.
I do appreciate, though, when you're not just sitting and listening, and that you are willing to witness in events such as this. So I really appreciate your willingness to share and be part of this event. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.